Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra. Well, in a patriarchal society like ours, we've always seen that money decisions are often made by the men in the family. And in the current macroeconomic situation, when all asset classes are feeling the heat of COVID, inflation, war, and even interest rates, women are finding it even more difficult to take money decisions. Now, to help us find out how can more women get easy with discussions around money, about investing, finances, all of this, I'm joined by an expert right now. Priti Rathi Gupta, founder of Lakshmi, which is a fintech startup, joins right in. Welcome, Priti, and thank you so much for taking the time out for Business Today TV.
Hi, Sakshi. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations to you, as your company Lakshmi has got also featured in the official Platinum Jubilee pageant commemorative album recently.
Well, Sakshi, thank you so much. I think it was an experience that, at least while building Lakshmi, I didn't realize this will come my way. So pleasantly surprised. But I think when they reached out, so St. James House, who's the official publisher for everything to do with the royal family, said we are releasing a commemorative album. And, we've heard of Lakshmi and the work that you're doing in India. The way the company is onboarding women in their financial journey.
Which is why this discussion is absolutely time bound. And that's what we want to discuss today, because we are seeing the world going through a turmoil right now. Everything from stock markets to gold to cryptocurrencies. Like you name it, all the asset classes are really feeling the heat. Are you noticing that more and more women are finding it right now to take those financial decisions? And what should they be really doing at this point then?
So Sakshi, this study that we did was actually very recent. It was in March. Yeah. And even those numbers, this is post-pandemic, were not very, positive numbers, right?
Yeah.
I think where we see the change is that women realize the need for financial security for the family, right? And I think when we looked at that study, we realized women, for them, the topmost financial goals for which they were saving money, and I say saving and not investing very clearly, was essentially either for their child's education, or it was for some, like a rainy day, or essentially towards some sort of financial security for the family. I think her own security came way later. So, for example, amongst the 4,000 women we surveyed, only 3% were thinking about their retirement, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that comes with our social conditioning is that we put our needs, pretty much at the back burner. Whereas I think it's important to realize that you as a part of the family are just as you need to take care of your financial security also. And I think in the pandemic, we've seen every woman needs to be able to manage the family finances, her own finances, and know what their money is doing.
Yeah.
So I think that shift is still to happen, but we see that on the rise. I think, platforms like ours, where the community is the core, we see more and more women joining just to know what are their options. So we see, for example, women tend to put a lot of their money in chit funds, right?
Yes.
And really to say, okay, there are other options like mutual funds that are available for you. All of that learning is being done on the community. And once that learning happens, we see that shift in behavior. So I think platforms like this are very important. We are playing a very important role in just generating conversation and creating awareness. Then backing it with the right type of learning, live sessions. And again, our live sessions are not just about so-and-so mutual fund, right? It's also about saying, how do you have money conversations with your partner?
Yeah.
Those are also questions that women have. So really making this a 360-degree offering along with investment. So with the very clear CTA that why don't you've learned it, now take that first step, right?
Absolutely.
And the benefit of the products that you, for example, a mutual fund, you can start investing with as little as 100 rupees or 500 rupees.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
that's
that,
the myth, out there. Most people don't know, especially women also don't know that, they can start off with as little as just 100 rupees. Like you spend 100 rupees without thinking today on anything and everything, which is online. You're shopping always now online, but then you can just as much save that money or invest that money in a financial instrument too. So that's an important learning. And you've been hand holding all the women through all the decisions, like you said, because we are seeing now more women coming into the earning sphere. So they're earning for themselves, but where exactly do they use this money to invest for themselves is the big question right now. So where should women begin? What do you really advise to them?
so I think women have a lot of comfort factor in just sort of putting their money into savings accounts. Fixed
Yeah,
deposits is a great comfort factor. And the
that's true.
next is gold, right? And typically, all we are right now recommending is look, saving money instead of a cupboard and instead of your bag or purse or, jars, do it the smarter way. Set up an online banking account, put in your savings there, because that becomes your entry point into other smarter investment tools. So
Hmm.
we work with what is comfort factor. For gold, for example, we saw that 52% women preferred to put their money in gold, but
Yeah,
a large chunk of it was traditional gold, physical gold, jewelry, etc., right? And we said, hey, there's a smarter way of doing this, right? Where you're not, your GST cost is saved, your insurance
making
cost is saved,
charges.
yeah, all of that. Why don't you start with a gold saving mutual fund? So
Yeah.
I think beginning with what you're comfortable with is a great idea. Women, Sakshi, form trust in a very different manner.
Hmm.
And I think if you follow this process, you slowly start getting comfortable with a digital way of investing or investing into electronic instruments or demat
Hmm.
instruments. And I think from there on, then starting that journey into equities or debt
Yeah.
is easier, because then you can do it through mutual funds. Again, we
Right.
usually recommend that you don't have to do the stocks research, just begin with mutual funds. And
Yeah.
automatically, once your money is put into a mutual fund, you will be inclined to understand, okay, what does this mean? What are the
Yeah.
companies in the fund? So begin slowly. You can begin, like you rightly said, you can begin with 100 rupees, 500,
Yeah.
small amounts, take small steps. But I think taking action is important.
Hmm.
And we spend a lot of, you spend 500 rupees on an outing, in the theater or at a restaurant. You can easily, one of those you can sort of, exchange for a small investment, which is
Yes.
actually going to go a long way in your future as well.
Yes, absolutely. But just like how I was talking earlier, that, right now we are looking at, asset classes really come under a lot of pressure because of the current macro environment that we are seeing, economic environment that we are seeing. So at this point in time, what are you really advising all the investors to do? Say women investors who have already invested in these traditional investment forms like FDs, or who have investments in mutual funds as well, in gold as well. What should they be really doing? Because that's the question they're asking. Should I exit my mutual funds at this point in time? Because every day I see a sea of red in my portfolio. Gold is not doing me too good because last year or year before last, it gave me great returns, but not anymore. So how do I really go about it? What are you telling them?
So I think one, when we tell them to start taking the investment decision, we say always put a time frame to it.
Okay.
Instead of really looking at, while even if you're putting your money in different asset classes or doing your asset allocation, time is a very important factor. There
Hmm.
are certain instruments like equities and gold, which are long-term instruments, right?
Hmm.
Once you put the money in that, you should not worry. It will
Okay.
come under pressure. So you need to look at what is the long term, what we know, what we call a CAGR. What
Hmm.
is long term return that you get on these investment instruments, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, I give this example very often. You buy a house for investment. I don't think you wake up every day and say, Aaj iska bhav kitna hai, right? We never ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just because here you can see the prices, it worries you. So stop looking at it, because for that is a long-term investment, and you only withdraw that money when you need the money, because otherwise
Hmm.
it's compounding, right? It's doing its job. The important thing is to know, what should I expect when I put my money in gold in the long term? What sort of targeted returns, and what sort of targeted returns could I expect in equity?
Sure.
To other asset classes, which is particularly for us, I think that leaves out debt,
Hmm.
which is either debt, mutual funds, or it could be a component of your fixed deposits, anything that is fixed income linked. I think it's important to know that in an environment that we are like, where we know that interest rates are going to rise, your exposure should be very short term,
Yeah.
limited to short term, because interest rates are going to rise. So, for example, if you're doing fixed deposits, try and do just a year fixed deposit, because you will see interest rate. If you're getting into debt instruments, try and stick to very ultra short term instruments, because you can then get the benefit of rising interest rates. So I
Yeah.
think these are fairly simple rules to follow that allow you to get a good night's sleep. You don't have to worry looking at, rates or prices or all of that. So keeping that in mind is very important.
Okay. So if I have to ask from women's point of view, what are the three financial must-haves in their portfolio? What do you really suggest?
So I think between a debt fund, an equity fund, and a gold fund, your financial planning is done. You actually do nothing else, right? Do an asset allocation based on your age, your sort of liabilities, responsibilities, and like I said, time frame. Where are your financials? See, as women, we always put our money for financial goals.
Yes,
I know that I'm doing it for so and so goal. Look at the time frame of that goal and accordingly invest. But between these three, you are absolutely, you can build a absolutely wonderful financial plan for yourself. I always say that the rest is all noise. A lot of people will come and tell you, put it here, put it there. I got this much return in this. Stick to these three. They are well known. They are well proven to give you, or accomplish your financial goals very, very effectively.
So in these, would you advise a SIP strategy or a lump sum investment for those women who already have the money right now? What should they be? How should they process this?
So I think if you have the money, it's a great idea to just put it all at once, because there's an opportunity cost depending on the amount of money. Yes, it is a very volatile time. There's a lot of volatility. You may want to spread it over, say, a 15-day SIP for the next 2 months, maybe. But don't sort of say, I'm going to spread it out over the year, because that's an people call it opportunity cost. I say it's an opportunity return that you're giving up, right?
Right.
And therefore, so if you have lump sum, spread it into maybe smaller chunks, but in a limited time frame. And SIP is always a great way of disciplining your investment. So, lump sum, once you've invested, if you have some income, you should always sort of tie that up into SIPs, irrespective of anything else. For me, SIP is a great tool for every investor to sort of make sure that a certain amount is going, and then it helps you average out your cost of holding as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to, say, investments or even borrowing, are there a women first, any kind of women first advantage in the financial world as well that women should know about?
Well, interestingly, there's something that we are working on in Lakshmi, and very soon will be out there. But look, here is the problem, and this is something that I've always believed, that when it comes to lending, I think women were always the first choice, because we make for great borrowers, right? So
yes,
microfinance,
we will return our money.
Especially if it is, I'm leaving aside the world of banking. So if you are somebody who qualifies for a bank loan, it's not a problem. But most of the population of women we see do not qualify, especially if it's personal lending, personal borrowing. And then what happens is a lot of platforms reach out to you at very, very sort of unimaginable rates of lending. And I think that's where you should be very, 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 you should apply your thought, because servicing that loan, is it something that you will be able to do? Because we've also seen that is the beginning of the debt trap. So I think it's very important to pay attention, to keep in sync. What are the current interest rates? What do banks give? And what is it that you are getting? There are a lot of models through which women are being lent to. It could be just microfinance. It could be through your buy now, pay later. There are various models right now, right?
Yeah.
And it's important to keep in mind that if you're taking that loan, how are you capable of servicing it or not? And second, also, what are your other liabilities? We do live, consumerism is on the rise. I know there is a lot of interest in saying, okay, let me buy this right now. I can always
True.
later. So you're just
True.
postponing your responsibility or liabilities. But
Yeah.
keep in mind, I think it's also a great tool if used effectively. But keep in mind the interest rates. There are a lot of platforms that are willing to lend to you as a woman. So know that, because you make for a great customer.
Okay, understood that. So we've already taken care of the saving and the investment part and the lending part and the borrowing part as well. Now, when it also comes to, say, building a financial portfolio, we also talk about insurance as well. Many women out there don't think that they need insurance. I mean, like, there are very few women that are insured adequately, at least in India. So, what do you tell those women out there with respect to health insurance and term insurance? Are both necessary for women out there, and how does one really decide how much cover?
So great question, Sakshi. And it's such a pain point, because when we did this study, 60% women, and these are urban women, 60%
Yeah.
women had no insurance, no health insurance. And this is again after the pandemic, right? So I think it's important when we tell women that you should have 5 financial goals. Uh,
Mm.
Start with creating an emergency fund, start working towards your retirement fund, right?
Right.
Whatever age you may begin, earlier you begin, the better it is.
Mm.
Uh, Before this, get yourself a health insurance for sure, because you never know what's going to happen, and you don't want those costs to eat into your savings. So insurance is a must. Health insurance
Yeah.
is a must. A lot of times we have insurance, either the spouse has an insurance in which you are partly covered, but make
Yes.
sure that you have adequate, right? And
Mm.
I would surely say at least have 5-6 lakhs worth of health insurance, because
Mm.
today if you were to fall ill seriously and hospitalized, that's the sort of bills that you would incur, right?
Yes.
So make sure you have at least that amount. When it comes to term insurance, and of course, health insurance, the earlier you take, the better it is, because then your premiums are healthy all along,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Later
Yeah.
you start, the heavier premiums you pay. On term insurance, I always recommend that I think you need to keep in mind two things. What stage of life are you?
Mm.
Are you the major bread earner, or is your family dependent on you? Then I think term insurance is a must.
Mm.
And how much to take depends again on your liabilities. Are you just a couple,
Yeah.
or do you have elderly parents dependent on you? Do you have children who are dependent on you, or children who've grown up and sort of started their own earning, or finished with their education? All of these parameters really decide whether you need a term insurance, and
Yeah.
how much of it do you need. Because let's also remember, insurance we don't take up because it's a cost. So
Mm.
assess. But I do think that it is important for within a family for the bread earners to have term insurance. Also, if you do not, and your spouse is the one who has it, it's important to remember,
Yeah.
understand nominations. There are certain clauses there that you need to be aware of as a spouse. So insurance is something that you need to be very, very aware of. There are a lot of online portals today where you can go and assess which one is the
Mm.
best for you.
Mm.
But it should be right on top of your financial goals. So there is investing, and then there is the risk cover, so that your investments are allowed to grow.
Okay, so we've discovered, so many important points that as a woman investor, you should start off with: emergency fund, building a retirement corpus for yourself, insuring yourself, investing in the key points that Preeti just highlighted as well. So all of those key points are the beginning points. In case you have not yet started, then this is the basics that you should definitely have in your portfolio right here. As we, wrap up our conversation, 3 money tips that you want to give away to all our viewers today.
So I think one, I would usually say that, focus on your savings. I think in today's world, saving is really undermined. So it's 50% of growing your money, and that is in your control. So you should keep it, you should keep that as one of your North Stars. Second, begin early, begin small, but begin. That's the most important. A lot
Yes.
of people believe, when I have this amount of corpus is when I'm going to start investing. That is not, like you said, it's a myth. And the earlier you begin, the richer you retire, and the richer you get in your life.
Yes.
And the third important thing is do effective asset allocation. Make sure that your money is put into different asset classes, but look into the strategy. Pay attention to how you're deciding that strategy. There are a lot of thumb rules, but they are just thumb rules. You have to personalize it to yourself.
Yes.
So go out there and learn. Come onto the Lakshmi platform. We'll teach you how to asset allocate. And if you stick to these three, then you are fine. That's all you need to know about money management. So from my side, these are the three big money tips.
So thank you so much, Preeti. It's been a pleasure, as is always, to have you with us on Business Today TV to get all these insights for our women viewers.
Thank you, Sakshi. It's always a pleasure talking to you and to be on this channel, and look forward to doing many more together.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.